Have you ever caught yourself in a senior moment and wondered what happened to the mental acuity that got you through your education and studies? This is not an uncommon experience, and some loss of memory skills is completely normal as we get older, and it's really no cause for concern. I remember how my grandma, even in her 80s, could let you know something as specific as the fact that Lyndon B. Johnson married a ladybird on November 17th, 1934. However, she would still occasionally forget to check her pocket when looking for her car keys. However, significant memory loss and changes in cognitive abilities are a cause for concern and something we'd all like to avoid. The good news is that there's a good amount of scientific evidence to support simple lifestyle changes that have the power to improve brain health and decrease the risk of dementia, which is what I plan to discuss in this podcast today. We'll cover the top 6 lifestyle changes you can make to keep your mind sharp, how regular exercise and optimal sleep help slow mental decline, what foods you should eat for optimal brain function, whether or not your daily crossword and Sudoku puzzle provide the brain benefits you think they do, and how stress management and social activity keep you in good health. While it's not essential to take on all of the suggestions I'm going to talk about in this podcast, incorporating even just a few of them into your lifestyle can go a long way in terms of keeping your mind sharp for years and decades to come. Cognitive health strategy number 1, engage in regular physical activity. You might have heard a lot of buzz in the media lately quoting a statistic that just 30 minutes of walking per day can reduce your risk of developing dementia. But how true is this? It turns out very true. Research has consistently found that regular physical activity is one of the most effective means of protecting cognitive health as we age. In fact, 2 recent studies have helped identify exactly how much and what type of exercise we need to do for a healthy aging brain. A 2022 study published in JAMA Neurology examined the relationship between daily step count and the incidence of dementia in senior citizens over the course of 7 years. The researchers found that walking just under 10,000 steps per day led to the greatest reduction in dementia risk. Anything beyond that did not provide added benefit. But what if you don't have a smartwatch to track your steps? Well, the 9,800 steps they suggested is about 4 to 5 miles, depending on your height. But don't worry, if that seems unattainable, I have good news. Half of the protection against cognitive decline can be achieved in just 3,800 daily steps, which is closer to 1.5 to 2 miles. A lap or 2 around the neighborhood should get you pretty close to this figure. However, it's not just the amount of walking or physical activity that will help you maintain your mental sharpness. Exercise intensity also plays a role. A 2023 study conducted by the University of California, San Diego, found that moderate physical activity, such as brisk walking, cycling, or resistance training, decrease the risk of developing mild cognitive impairment or dementia in older age. However, light physical activity such as housework, gardening, or simple relaxed walking did not offer similar protection. So, what's the takeaway? A wide array of factors add up to determine your overall level of cognitive health, many of which are out of your control. However, exercise is one of the most powerful and simple things you can do for your brain health. But how does exercise actually help improve your cognitive health? We'll dive into a few tips for increasing the amount of movement in your day later in this podcast. But first, let's discuss how exercise actually helps improve cognitive health. It's a well-established fact that physical activity helps improve your memory, reasoning skills, and other aspects of mental functioning. But how does this work? While this is a question scientists are still actively trying to understand, I want to discuss one fascinating mechanism suggested in a 2015 study published in the Journal of Cognitive Neuroscience. Essentially, there are 2 broad modes of cognitive processing that our brain relies on. The first is distributed processing, in which multiple regions of the brain work together to take in and utilize information. The second is local information processing, in which information is processed primarily in one central area of the brain. As we age, the brain goes through certain natural changes that make distributed processing more challenging. To compensate for these changes, the brain starts to shift from relying primarily on distributed processing in our youth to local information processing in our senior years. That is a good thing, and older adults who efficiently transition into utilizing local information processing tend to have better cognitive function than those who continue to lean on distributed functioning. In the study, the researchers found that senior citizens who reported engaging in regular physical activity demonstrated a stronger reliance on local information processing than young adults and their less active senior peers. These results suggest that exercise does not just keep the brain young. Instead, it seems that exercise can increase neuroplasticity and help older adults transition to this more optimal method of cognitive function. So, what are some tips to stay active as a senior? This might sound counterintuitive, but my number one piece of advice for anyone trying to exercise more is to do the bare minimum. I know it might sound crazy, but hear me out. Consistency is way more important than intensity when it comes to exercise or any other healthy habit for that matter. So often I see people try to do too much too quickly. And this is just logistically unsustainable for many people, and especially when it comes to seniors, exercising too much and too intensely, especially if you're coming from a sedentary lifestyle, can often lead to injuries or other health complications that have the potential to put you off exercise for a long time. So instead, what I encourage people to do is to identify first one form of physical activity that you would genuinely enjoy doing. Not something that feels like punishment, but a way to move your body that feels enjoyable. And then I want you to think about the minimum amount of time per day or days per week that you can dedicate to this form of physical activity. Not an ambitious goal. I'm talking about the lowest of the low-hanging fruit. This could mean 10 minutes of stretching before bed or 15 minutes of walking after dinner twice a week. Or it could mean a 30-minute to 1 hour workout once a week. Whatever it is, just make a commitment. And then stick to this for at least 2 weeks, or until it feels natural and easy to do this much. Once this form of physical activity becomes a habit, something that you don't need to actively motivate yourself to do, you can start to think about increasing the number of days or the time you set aside for your movement practice. Of course, other options such as finding a workout buddy or investing in a personal trainer can be helpful as well. But I firmly believe that the intention behind our goals and actions is one of the most important factors in determining our success. It really is true that slow and steady wins the race, and it's important to approach health in a way that is sustainable and rooted in a place of self-love and care. Cognitive help tip number 2 is to adopt a mind diet. Have you ever looked at a walnut and thought that it looked like a tiny little brain? Well, it turns out that they're good for your brain too. And that's because they're packed of omega-3s and antioxidants. In fact, diet is another one of the best ways that you can improve your cognitive health. But what diet is best for your brain? 2 of the most common diets suggested for maintaining healthy brain function are the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. The Mediterranean diet is a pattern of eating common in countries such as Italy and Greece that has been associated with a wide array of health benefits. On the flip side, the DASH in DASH diet stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And as the name suggests, the DASH diet was originally developed as a means to reduce high blood pressure. Hypertension in and of itself is a known risk factor for dementia, and the DASH diet also emphasizes more nutrient-rich food choices that promote cognitive health. Both the Mediterranean and the DASH diet have a lot of overlap in the ways that they help reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. So rather than diving into each one of these diets individually, I want to highlight some of the commonalities between the two that can provide insights into how we can eat to best support our brains. First commonality is healthy fats and omega-3s. Remember when low-fat diets were all the rage? While there's a place for keeping an eye on the amount of saturated and trans fats or unhealthy fats in your diet, monosaturated and polyunsaturated fats are not only good for you, but also essential for optimal cognitive function. But what are healthy fats and how do they help? Olive oil, avocados, nuts and seeds, and even fatty fish are all healthy sources of fat to fuel a healthy brain. Walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, and fatty fish are also great sources of omega-3s. Healthy fats and omega-3s help our cognitive functions in a few ways. First, healthy fats help strengthen the integrity of neural cell membranes, improve synaptic function, and promote neuroplasticity. They're also anti-inflammatory, helping reduce oxidative stress in the brain, which is a risk factor for age-related cognitive decline. So you can grab yourself a can of lightly salted Planters peanuts and enjoy them, knowing that your brain will thank you for it. The second common factor between the Mediterranean and the DASH diet is the abundance of fruits and vegetables. You've probably known someone who tried to go vegan or vegetarian to improve their health. While there are many other compelling reasons to reduce the amount of animal products in your diet, it seems that health isn't necessarily one of them. In fact, a recent study comparing vegans, flexitarians, and omnivores found that flexitarians, or people who ate high amounts of plant foods in addition to meat and dairy products in moderation, enjoyed similar benefits to their vegan counterparts in terms of insulin levels, triglycerides, and LDL cholesterol. Eating less meat is a tough pill for most Americans to swallow. That's why I try to encourage people to focus instead on simply eating more plants. Instead of making an animal-based food the center of your meal, try to make fruits and vegetables the star. Season your vegetables with the same love and care that you would treat a chicken breast or a steak with, and try to fill up on them first before moving on to your meats and grains. Enjoy your bowl of ice cream, but have some fruit on the side to go with it. Taking this additive rather than restrictive approach allows us to experience the benefits of eating more plants in a more sustainable and enjoyable way. And there are so many benefits to be had. Like healthy fats, many fruits and vegetables are high in antioxidants. However, fruits and vegetables are also rich in flavonoids, folate, vitamin K, and potassium, which support memory, learning, and cognitive function by increasing blood flow to the brain. The high fiber content in plant foods also helps lower bad cholesterol and improve gut health. This in turn will increase blood flow to the brain, improving our mood, sense of mental clarity, and energy levels. Next on the list are whole grains. Listen, I'm from Texas and know that H-E-B butter flour tortillas will be supreme to any whole wheat or corn alternative, now and for forever. I am the last person who will fight you on that. However, I will encourage you to reflect on the sources of grains in your diet and try to switch to whole grain options where it's possible. There are a lot of brands with whole wheat pasta on the market these days that are so good you'll barely be able to tell the difference. You could also try brown rice instead of white rice if you're having a stir fry. You could make your sandwiches on whole wheat or sourdough bread, or even just having a morning bowl of oatmeal can go a long way. Wherever you can, just try to make the switch because whole grains are so important for cognitive function. Why? Well, whole grains are rich in B vitamins, magnesium, and zinc, which are involved in the production of neurotransmitters as well as functions such as memory and learning. Carbs are also the brain's preferred source of energy, and complex carbohydrates are digested slowly. This provides a more steady stream of glucose to the brain, preventing blood sugar crashes and impaired focus and mood. The takeaway is that you can eat your pasta guilt-free and you don't need to order corn tortillas with your fajitas. However, where you can, go for whole grain options to help support your brain. Last but not least on the list is that both of these diets suggest a limited intake of red and processed meats, added and refined sugars, and alcohol. I know, all the things that make life fun. Again, I'm always going to be a proponent of moderation when it comes to a healthy lifestyle. You don't need to cut these things out of your diet entirely if you don't want to, but you should at least know why they're not the best choices for your brain health. I've already gone on my spiel about plant-based versus omnivorous diets, and I won't tell you to give up meat entirely. However, if you're going to eat meat, it's best to do so in moderation and to stick towards lean meats. Red and processed meats are particularly bad for your health. For one, they're high in saturated fats, which can lead to high cholesterol and hypertension, both of which are risk factors for developing cognitive impairment amongst a host of other issues. Second is red and processed meats increase inflammation in the body. This is significant when you consider that chronic inflammation is a known risk factor for neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. But what about your sweet tooth? Similar to meat, refined and added sugar can increase inflammation and oxidative stress in the brain, reducing brain volume, impairing memory, and increasing the risk of cognitive decline. Excessive sugar take can also lead to insulin resistance and blood sugar crashes, especially if high sugar intake comes with low fiber in your diet. As always, I'm not saying you can never enjoy a slice of cake or a bowl of ice cream. However, I am encouraging you to be aware of how much sugar you consume. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2 to 3 tablespoons per day, depending on your body weight. And for reference, one 12-ounce can of Coke has almost 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. That's a lot. Plus, there's a lot of hidden added forms of sugar in things you would never expect, such as whole grain breads, yogurt, and even snack bars, which are marketed as healthy. Lastly is alcohol. You probably have heard someone say that a glass of wine with dinner is good for your health, and it's even recommended in the Mediterranean diet. However, the latest research suggests that moderate drinking does not provide any health benefits, and the official stance of the WHO is that there is no safe level of alcohol consumption. Alcohol is a neurotoxin that leads to reduced brain volume in vital regions such as the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, which are responsible for memory and executive function. Regular drinking also impairs neurogenesis. That's the brain's ability to produce new neurons. Knowing this, it should come as no surprise that alcohol is a known factor linked to the risk of dementia and cognitive decline in older adults. This is the case at even small levels. I will add that alcohol is also a group 1 carcinogen associated with breast, liver, bowel, mouth, and throat cancers. This is in the same category as substances such as asbestos, radiation, and tobacco. Alcohol is something that is much more culturally normalized in the United States than smoking. However, this information and the very real risks associated with even moderate drinking should serve as just some important food for thought when considering your alcohol intake. Cognitive health tip number 3 is to exercise your brain. Want to hear a shocking statistic? Actively knowing and using 2 different languages cuts your risk of developing dementia in half. It can also delay symptoms of cognitive decline by years, giving back valuable time to your life. But why is this the case? Truly bilingual people think in both languages, and researchers believe that this code switching or mental gymnastics is like a form of exercise for your brain, helping maintain the fitness of regions associated with executive functioning and language processing. So, should you buy a Rosetta Stone tape and finally commit to learning Spanish? That certainly wouldn't hurt if that's something you're interested in doing. However, the main point I want you to take away is the importance of staying mentally active as you get older. Once your working years are done, it's so easy to just plop down in front of the TV and spend the majority of your time engrossed in all your favorite reruns. However, the importance of keeping your mind active and engaged cannot be understated. Brain games, hobbies, learning new things, and even a social interaction all help promote neuroplasticity, buffer against cognitive decline, and improve memory and focus. Here's just a few ideas you could try to stay mentally sharp as a senior. You should stay committed to your morning crossword or Sudoku puzzles. They really do help. You could consider trying to learn a new language. You could sign up for music lessons or learn how to play a new instrument. You could attend a local art class. You could join a senior sports team. You could also read any type of book that you enjoy. It doesn't matter if it's a presidential autobiography, an intro to quantum mechanics, or a romance novel. Reading alone is highly beneficial. You can also listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos like this that are educational about topics that you find interesting. You could also try to learn a practical skill such as gardening, cake decorating, woodworking, or pottery. And this is not an exhaustive list of ideas, but just try to think of something that speaks to you. The important thing is to stay mentally engaged in your life. After all, you want to be able to spend your retirement years in a way that's fulfilling and meaningful to you. Cognitive health tip number 4 is to get enough sleep. Sleep is incredibly important for both our mind and body to rest and recharge. You can think of sleep as our brain's time for some much-needed spring cleaning. While we sleep, our brain has a chance to review the events of our day and transfer important information from short to long-term memory. It also takes time to repair and regenerate neurons and strengthen important neural connections. All of this is essential for preserving our vital cognitive functions, such as memory, attention, problem-solving skills, learning, and even emotional regulation. In addition, the brain's glymphatic system becomes more active when we're sleeping. This is a specialized waste clearage system in the brain essential for removing metabolic waste, such as beta amyloid, the buildup of which is a key component in the development of Alzheimer's disease. All of this underscores how important it is to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. But that's easier said than done, right? So let's talk about a few tips to help you get some more shut-eye. Good sleep isn't just about the number of hours you sleep, but also about the quality of that sleep. So even if you're able to fall asleep quickly, you may not be getting enough restorative sleep. There are 3 main stages of sleep: light sleep, REM sleep, and deep sleep. REM and deep sleep are when our brains are able to conduct many of the essential functions I mentioned in the previous part of this podcast. If you spend too much time in light sleep and or wake up frequently, you probably won't feel rested or as mentally engaged the next day. That being said, here are a few tips to help you improve the quality and the duration of your sleep. First is to try to go to sleep and wake up at regular times. Most people have a biological predisposition towards being a night owl or an early bird. So lean into this the best you can, given your commitments during the day, and try to go to bed and wake up around the same time. Second is to avoid blue light from screens at least an hour before bed. TVs, computers, phones, and tablets all emit blue light, which disrupts our circadian rhythm. And this will make it harder to fall asleep and will also reduce the quality of our sleep once we do hit the hay. Third is to establish a relaxing bedtime routine. Your grandchildren are not the only ones who will benefit from a bedtime story and a wind-down routine. So try experiment with taking a warm bath, reading, or even meditating before bed to see if it helps you fall asleep easier and feel more relaxed in the evening. Not only are these activities calming, but a bedtime routine will eventually train your brain into naturally transitioning into sleep when it's time to do so. Next on the list is to avoid heavy meals and caffeine 3 to 5 hours before sleeping. Caffeine can take up to 10 hours to be fully eliminated from your body. So having a cup of coffee too late in the day can make it difficult to fall asleep and also detract from the quality of your sleep. Additionally, lying down after a heavy or especially spicy meal can increase acid reflux, which will make it difficult to fall asleep. So keep an eye on what you're eating and drinking close to bed. On that note, you might want to consider limiting fluid intake an hour or two before bed. If you are someone who finds that your sleep is constantly disrupted by late night trips to the bathroom, trying to make sure that you reduce your water intake and have one bathroom trip before going to sleep can help reduce the number of times that you have to get up or perhaps eliminate it completely. Next suggestion is to use ergonomic supports. If aches and pains make it difficult for you to fall or stay asleep, it may be worth investing in ergonomic supports such as an orthopedic mattress, wedge pillows, cervical pillows, or even pregnancy pillows can be really great to help you feel more comfortable while you're trying to catch some Z's. Next is to exercise during the daytime. Intense physical activity too close to bed can make it difficult to wind down, but getting movement in during the daytime can help you expend excess energy and will help you fall asleep faster at night. So give it a try. As we talked about earlier, exercise is good for your brain anyways, but as an added benefit, it may also help you get better sleep. And last but not least is to consult a doctor. If you've tried everything I listed above and are still having a hard time falling or staying asleep, it's definitely worth seeking out medical care to rule out other sleep disorders or issues such as sleep apnea, which may be preventing you from getting the sleep that you so truly deserve. Cognitive health strategy number 5 is to manage stress. You've probably heard someone refer to themselves as a type A person. You may have even described yourself in this way. Type A people tend to be driven, hard workers, competitive, goal-oriented, highly organized, and often self-critical. While a type A personality is generally considered to be a cultural term and not a scientific one, there have been studies that link type A personalities to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and depression. However, more recent studies have found that this association is eliminated when type A people can effectively learn to manage stress, engage in positive health behaviors, and find social support. Although cardiovascular disease is not directly related to cognitive decline, hypertension and high levels of inflammation are risk factors for both health conditions and are a direct result of chronic stress. This highlights the importance of stress management for your health generally, but for your brain in particular. On top of this, cognitive stress doesn't just wreak havoc on your body. It can also lead to problems with your mental health. I talked earlier about engaging in activities to keep your mind active, suggesting the importance of filling your senior decades with purpose and vitality. However, this is not just for the sake of exercising the brain. It's also a protective factor for our mental health. Chronic and untreated mental illness is a lesser-known contributor to the development of cognitive decline and dementia. Not only does depression chip away at your quality of life, but it can lead to structural changes in the brain that usher in cognitive decline. Namely, chronic untreated depression leads to shrinkage in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. These are areas essential for memory, learning, attention, and logical reasoning. Depression can also increase chronic inflammation and the buildup of beta amyloid proteins in the brain, which I already mentioned are precursors to Alzheimer's. If you currently are experiencing feelings of depression, I can't urge you enough to seek the help of a licensed mental health professional or psychiatrist. So we know we need to manage stress and that we need to get treatment for any active mental health concerns, but how do we actually do this? Well, I have some good news. Meditation is a powerful antidote to many of the harmful effects that chronic stress and mental illness can bring to our minds and bodies. In fact, a recent study compared the brains of 50 long-term meditators to 50 control subjects. The researchers found that the functional age of the long-term meditators' brains was up to 7.5 years younger than their chronological age. Amazing, right? But how is this actually possible? Well, here are just a few of the powerful benefits that meditation can provide for our cognitive health. First is meditation lowers cortisol levels. This is the stress hormone in our body, which in turn protects the brain from stress-related damage to the hippocampus. Meditation also leads to lower levels of inflammatory markers in the body. This is significant as we have mentioned that chronic inflammation it can increase the risk of cognitive decline and dementia if left unchecked. Meditation has also been demonstrated to increase gray matters in the region of the brain responsible for memory, learning, attention, and critical thinking, as well as emotion regulation. And this just happens to be the same areas of the brain that depression leads to shrinkage in. Mindfulness practice can also help reduce our risk of experiencing depression and anxiety in the first place. And then if we do happen to experience mental illness, it can help speed up our recovery time and increase the effectiveness of treatment. So, are you ready to get your meditation cushion and get started right away? Well, later this month, I will be publishing another podcast as a sort of sister episode to this podcast, outlining a few specific meditation practices you can do for your cognitive health. I'll walk you through step-by-step how to do each practice and explain the unique benefits of each. You can check the link in the description for a link to that video once it's posted, or click the link below to join my email list and be notified anytime new content goes live. Cognitive health tip number 6, stay social. A 2010 meta-analysis investigating the relationship between social isolation and all-cause mortality found that chronic feelings of loneliness were as detrimental to our health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Listen, I am an introverted old cat lady trapped in a 25-year-old's body, and there's nothing more in life that I enjoy more than canceled plans and a night in to be alone. However, social support is time and time again proved to be one of the most important protective factors against both mental and physical illness. But how does this work? A lot of mechanisms through which social support improves our health and mental fitness overall overlaps with many of the themes already expressed in this article. But here's just a brief overview. Social support can help lower cortisol levels and reduce the risk of depression and anxiety. As we've already mentioned, chronically elevated cortisol levels in mental illness can impair memory and executive function, making them important to keep in check. Being social also helps provide mental stimulation. When we interact with somebody else, we have to be actively engaged in the conversation, reading social cues and adjusting our own behaviors and responses. We have to recall information, consider new ideas, and we get the opportunity to see things from a different perspective. All of this creates an excellent opportunity to exercise cognitive functions in a dynamic way. And then last but not least, social people tend to have more healthy habits. This can include being more physically active, eating a more balanced diet, and getting more sleep, all of which are great supports for strong cognitive health. But here's the thing, once you no longer have many of the inbuilt sources of community that you once did through work or parenting activities, it can be difficult to maintain old friendships or to establish new ones. Making friends in retirement often requires more active effort than it used to, but it is still so important for your health and your overall quality of life. Here are just a few tips for getting social as a senior. First is you could join an interest-based group. This could be a book club, a gardening group, an art class, or anything you can imagine. The important thing is that hobby groups provide the dual benefit of both mental stimulation and social interaction. You don't need to be good at whatever you sign up for, you just need to try something new and have fun. And as an added bonus tip, Facebook groups can be a great way to help find people in your community who have common interests to you and to get involved. Second on the list is to attend senior community events. Look up your local senior center and see if they have any upcoming community events. Try to pick at least one thing to attend in the next month and speak to at least 3 new people at the event. Third is to offer to volunteer. Maybe you want to help run the next adoption event for a local pet rescue. Maybe you're a retired nurse and you want to donate your services to the nearest hospital. Or maybe you could offer a guest lecture at the local community college. Whatever it may be, volunteering is a powerful way not only to connect with others, but to also cultivate a sense of meaning and purpose. Next is sign up for a group fitness class. We've already talked about the benefits of movement, but attending something like a senior chair yoga class can help you connect with like-minded friends, and it can also provide some extra motivation to be consistent with your exercise goals. Another option is to get involved in your spiritual community. If you identify as a religious or spiritual person, staying active in your church group can be an excellent way to connect with your peers who share common values and who can provide counsel during challenging times. Another option, if making new friends is proving difficult, is to reach out to an old friend. How is your best friend from high school doing these days? What about your favorite coworker from back in the day? Give them a call or write them a letter if you haven't talked in a while. Reconnecting with friends we already have can be an easier and less intimidating way of getting some much-needed social connection. And last but not least is to think about becoming a pet parent if you're not already. Even if they can't talk back, pets are a wonderful source of companionship. You could consider adopting a dog, a cat, or even a fish if you prefer something more low maintenance. Having a pet can be especially helpful if you're someone who currently lives alone and just needs the sense of having somebody else there day to day. With that brings us to the end of this podcast. In this episode, we've outlined the 6 most effective and evidence-based ways to maintain optimal cognitive function as you get older. Many of these strategies overlap with and support one another, which is why it's so important to take a look at our health holistically. Here's a quick summary of the main areas of your health and lifestyle you may want to take a look at for the sake of your cognitive health. Look at how active you are on an average day. If you're not already, try to work up to at least 30 minutes of moderate physical activity each day. Eat for your brain. Center your diet around healthy fats, plant foods, whole grains, and limit your consumption of red or processed meats, added sugar, and alcohol. Keep your mind active. Continue learning new skills, engage in hobbies, and don't skip your morning crossword. Do your best to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Adopt good sleep hygiene practices and consult a doctor if you continue to face issues. Try to manage stress the best you can, and seek out clinical treatment for any active mental health issues. Consider meditation to boost your mood and keep stress at bay. Get social. Make an active effort to nurture friendships and get involved in your local community. To wrap up, I just want to end by saying that our brains are the physical host of all that makes us us. The idea of losing some part of that is a terrifying thought for most of us. While some degree of our cognitive health is up to the hand dealt to us by our genetics, a significant degree is also in our own control. Start slow, have compassion for yourself, but start taking the necessary steps to make sure that your brain supports you in living fully and independently for as long as possible. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I sincerely hope you were able to find value and gain new insights from this episode. Here at Hayden's Yoga Practice, I share regular content diving deep into senior health topics. I also provide holistic chair yoga and meditation resources specifically designed for senior citizens. You can join my newsletter to receive free printable chair yoga guides and to be notified anytime new content goes live. You can check the links below in the description of this episode to visit my website and learn more about some of my paid services I have to support you on your senior health journey. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to this article, and I wish you a lovely day ahead filled with mindfulness and ease.